Hashem's Basai Tivtach Lofi Agita Asacha. We're now in the 5th Perek of Melachim Alef. I know the Perek itself is going to go into detail about Shlomo HaMelech's wealth. But there's a question that goes back to several weeks ago when we asked the following. When we have in Berkas Kohanim, Yivarechecha Hashem Yishmerecha, Hashem should bless you, Yishmerecha, and take care of you. We said that security seemingly should come before extra bracha. How do we rectify the order? And one of the answers that is given, a beautiful answer, is that Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. First, Yivarechecha Hashem. First, there are going to be brachas, but it is only through accepting the brachas for what they are, making sure that everything you get, you're doing l'shem shamayim. So it's Yivarechecha Hashem, you do it for Hashem, v'yishmerecha. That will be your security. And that is really the issue with regard to this Perek. Shlomo HaMelech has an enormous amount of bracha. He has wealth up to the wazoo, and we will describe it. He had so much food that he had to provide for just his kingdom. He had delicacies, 10 fed oxen, 20 fed oxen, 100 sheep and goats, besides for deers, gazelle, and geese. He had a huge amount of land from the Euphrates down from Tipsa to Aza, a huge amount of land. And the people were living at a time where there was betach, there was security. Ish tachas gafno v'tachas teinaso. A man, people felt so comfortable they just sat under their vine and their fig tree. A beautiful imagery that even George Washington appreciated. He took the one from Zachariah, but he definitely something that highlights that everything is good. And so Yivarechecha, there was the Yivarechecha. But then we go into the negative. Vayhi l'Shlomo 40,000 urvot susim lemerkavo. We know the king only has a certain amount of laws that are pertaining directly to him. One of the laws is v'lo yarbe l'cha susim. You shouldn't have too many horses. And here he has 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots and 12,000 riders. He has an enormous amount. How in the world could this be? Moreover, he has, so we have an understanding that he had not only that, but he had so much wealth and horses that's the second thing. He's not allowed to have lo yarbe lecha kesef. He can't have too much money and susim. And we'll hear later about the wives. But just for right now, this is a nation whose development is so significant because they can focus on their infrastructure. They could focus on expanding their borders. They can focus on inner development. They are so incredibly strong financially, economically, and they're living the life of Riley. Amazing. But we have an issue because that was one of the brachos that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Shlomo HaMelech. Is he doing Yivarechecha followed by Hashem so that he gets Yishmerecha? Is he going to have safety? Is he doing anything with his money, l'shem shamayim? Now, we do have an understanding that he also has Vayitain Elokim Chachma l'Shlomo. Hashem gave so much brilliance to Shlomo, but he doesn't only have Chachma, he has Tzavuna. He has the obvious intelligence, but then he has a deeper intelligence, able to make those cerebral connections in a way that other people just can't. And his his understanding is what? Kechol asher al sfas hayam. It is so enormous, it is just inconceivably strong. But that is right after the pasuk about the horses and about the wealth. So is he doing Yivarechecha, Hashem? Is he taking the bracha of intelligence and using it l'shem shamayim? Well, we have an understanding of just how smart he was. So he was able to understand, remember, he had chachma and he had tibuna, he had bina. So he's understanding all of those connections. He also is smarter. He's smarter than any of the non-Jews. That goes without saying. But not only that, so he was smarter on the pshat level, on a concrete level, than these people. Eitan, who must have been smart, Haman, who must have been smart, Kilkol, Darda. But the Mefarshim talk that it's deeper. He was smarter than Adam, as in Adam Arishon, who was so smart because the world all was in its perfect state with Adam Arishon. He knew where everything belonged. He knew the value of everything. And until he sinned, everything was in its rightful nature, was in its rightful place, and with its rightful goals in order to serve Hashem. Eitan is another name for Avram Avinu, Haman for Moshe, Chalkol is for Yosef, Darda are all the people in the Midbar. He was smarter than all of them, even smarter than Moshe Rabbeinu. That's pretty smart. But again, what happens is, how could he do what he did with his wealth and with the susim, with the horses? So first of all, we have an understanding that the sus, the horse, is different than the chamor. The sus, as we know, that Mashiach is going to ride on the chamor. The sus is a symbol of grandeur and wealth. And perhaps that's what he was trying to espouse, the idea that Klal Yisrael, we are B'nai Melachim, and he is the king of all kings. And this is something that is going to go into, and bring out the Goyim and their respect in all the respects. And perhaps the money was also going to be l'shem shamayim, except there's a halachas in the Torah. You're not allowed to have too much of this. And so through his wisdom and his bina, he was able to come up with, the Mefarshim talk about, two different rationales so that he really could have what he had. But that's what happens when you're not having Yivarechecha, that Hashem blesses you, but it's Hashem, only for Hashem, not for any other purpose. Can you get Yishmerecha? Will it be something that is going to sustain and help you and provide you with security? Here, these are not good things that Shlomo HaMelech is doing. He has too much. And with too much, we're going to see how it deviates, how it takes away. Perhaps when we're describing that anything of a bracha is like the sand on the seashore. What happens with sand in a seashore? You see how the waves, they go, they ebb and they flow. And sometimes they bring the sand down with them. And sometimes they push the sand back and happy. And that is what happens when it comes to anything, especially any of the brachos that we have from Hashem. It's going to ebb and flow. Nothing is ever a guarantee in life except for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And perhaps Shlomo HaMelech should have or could have done better in taking all of what he had and using l'shem shamayim. Now, on the other hand, he was a great tzaddik and a great chacham, and he had 3,000 mashals, and he had 1,005 songs. The mashalim helped to create Mishlei, and the songs Shir HaShirim. The rest were not Lidoros. We didn't need them. And anything again that was contained was for a good reason. Otherwise, it was lost. And he was able to go back to the time of Adam Arishon to understand what was the purpose of everything in nature. Remember, when nature really just found its purpose, that was an example of that. Remember in Bereshis, where we had with Yaakov Avinu. That Yaakov Avinu, when he put his head down to go to sleep, all the stones were clamoring, "No, we want you to put your head down on us. We want you to put down on me, on me, on me." What does that mean? So in essence, everything had its purpose. We had that in the time of Adam. Then during the time of Noach, it was gone. Oh, and he brought back some of it. And it was completely not in its perfect state until Shlomo HaMelech, because Shlomo HaMelech saw, he was Chacham Mikol Adam, but besides for the Adam part, he also had a tremendous amount of knowledge of zoology and botany and everything that you possibly could understand and or not understand. And as a result, he just understood between his chachma and his bina exactly why the world is how it was, and everything was in its rightful place. Now, people heard about this, obviously, and so one of those people is Hiram Melech Tzor, and he hears about it, and he sends people to Shlomo, and he was always a friend of David HaMelech, so this is not something of, a fair weather friend. And Shlomo sends to Hiram a message right away. Again, the Zrizos, the pace in which Shlomo HaMelech takes care and is definitive is very, very significant of a good leader. And so what does he say? He says that I want to build a house in the name of Hashem. And as was promised to David, saying that bincha asher eten tachtecha al kisecha hu yivneh habayit l'shmi. It's not going to be you, but your child is going to be building the house of Hashem. Now remember, when the Bnei Yisrael get into Eretz Yisrael, they have to conquer the land, they have to appoint the king, and the last part is building a Beis HaMikdash. So that's exactly what is now going to be the focus. And so Shlomo HaMelech needs to do a few things. First of all, there is the best out of all the wood is the Arzei Halavanan, and those he has to get. So he agrees to this treaty or a barter system with Hiram, that he will provide them with food in exchange, the payment in exchange for the lumber, and only the way that he himself and the people of and the people in the area, how they tie and work on and do everything that has to do with the wood. These are wood experts, and he is so. And when Hiram hears Shlomo HaMelech's message, he's so excited. Baruch Hashem Hayom Asher Nasan LeDavid Ben Chacham Al Ha'am Haravazeh. This is a good day that my friend David, before he died, he appointed someone who was truly smart. And Hiram said words to Shlomo, I will give all of Arte Arazim and Arte Bishorim. The cedar and the cypress, they're all exactly what you require. That's exactly what you're going to get. And they're going to put it in a shipping system, and that shipping system is going to send the lumber all the way down exactly where it needs to go. And that is, so again, Hiram provides with the wood, and as a result, Shlomo HaMelech gives Hiram a lot of wheat and a lot of oil and all these things that would benefit them. And that's exactly right. So Shlomo makes treaties with Hiram. He has an understanding of how he's going to ensure the peace and the safety, and develop perhaps some allies that he could basically trust. And Hiram is one of them. And this friendship is very strong, and it just highlights again that there is this golden age in for the Jews under the reign of King Shlomo. King Shlomo had his real hard nisayon, that which he has to reckon with Hashem is this idea of what he's going to do with all of his wealth and all of his brachos and all of his gifts. Is he going to use it effectively to help? Is it going to be Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha? Or, as we see so far, he's actually putting himself at a disadvantage. The decision that he's making to already have so many delicacies and so much and all that abundance, we're going to see if exactly what happens to it. Shlomo is gathering the wood and all of the means in order to start the process of setting up the Beis HaMikdash. And the allies, and just being an Or LaGoyim, just being a light to the nations is very, very significant. Remember, we have the idea that that's what's going to happen during the time of Mashiach. And so here, what we're having is a little bit of just a snippet as to the grand, amazing lifetime of Shlomo HaMelech, but recognizing that, and it's very, very important to recognize that, that Shlomo, he really fulfilling Yivarechecha, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given you everything. And internally, and you're a light to the nations, and you're the hub economically and socially and emotionally. Everything is going on in his land during this time. But does he use it completely l'shem shamayim, or does he deviate a little bit from the course and accept payment and work out situations with goyim and just the little itty bitty things that if you really, really look clearly at this Perek, what you see is that it's a time of great prosperity. But is anything really l'shem shamayim? Does he give you that feel? Not so much. And we will see how that impacts on the next Perek.